What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, powered by Living in Colorado, The Mile High Perspective on YouTube, and Fathom Realty. As always, my name is Charlie Sardelli, and I'm here with
Jameson Amaros,
Oscar Barra.
And guys, like I just said, we are three Colorado-based realtors that do this podcast because we love to drink bourbon and inform you on the real estate market and everything there is about real estate, right? And guys, I want to start off this episode by saying, if you listened to last week's episode and I scared you in any kind of a way with my voice, it's still not fully here, but thank you. You're the real ones. Because as I was editing that episode, I came up and I said, Charlie Sardelli, and Charlie, it scared me. Something
sounded like
primal.
you were it was like a guest spot on like The Conjuring.
Yeah. Well, something primal in me. It was like, it was like my ears immediately knew that person's not healthy, you know? And I tried to talk it out. I tried to cough it out, drink water. Didn't really work.
That's funny.
But thank you guys so much for joining us and watching that episode. And guys, you're blowing up our TikTok. So thank you so much for all the communication, the comments, the likes, and for talking amongst yourselves in there.
And the dislikes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it's been cool to see, like, this is exactly what we wanted to do, is generate conversation.
Oh, it generated some conversation.
Around real estate.
Yeah.
What is it? How many comments?
Oh, I don't know. We're like 600 comments.
And, we had a lot of bad comments, and
it's actually
that's cool and all that. But the two that were going,
majority of it's
that was
been
actually
positive.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah. There's been a couple of people who have said, "Hey, we got to just." So what you're saying is kill off the baby boomers.
Jeez.
That's what you took from that conversation.
Yeah, we're gonna get banned.
The pandemic tried to do that, but they're resilient.
We're gonna get
it is
TikTok
funny though, like just thinking about it as we go into this topic, because we're talking about technology and real estate, right?
Yep.
But it's crazy because that clip that we posted was only, I think, 2 minutes long, and a 2 minute long clip that wasn't obviously the whole conversation that you guys hear here generated almost 70,000 views, 600 comments, like all the stuff for 2 minutes.
It's awesome.
Wow.
It's incredible.
It's great.
It's incredible. But like Jameson just said, guys, on today's episode, what we want to talk about is technology and real estate. Basically, like how it's going to affect real estate moving forward. And one thing that I'm going to talk about in that space is AR and VR walkthroughs, right? And then I think you guys want to take a little bit more on kind of where you see it going with showings and availability and how
there's
and even the evolution of where we are now from where we were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even from when I started.
Yeah. And guys, on today's episode, we know the last, I think it was 4 episodes, we had above 100 proof for our bourbons, right? So this one, we wanted to tone it down a little bit, kind of bring it back down to that, not really intro level, but a little bit more accessible bourbon, and one that's easily accessible across the country. Palatable, right? So on
dollar-wise.
Yes. And as always, we'll give you that price at the end. But on today's episode, we're going to be drinking Yellowstone Bourbon Whiskey. No, not the show Yellowstone. They did it like a select release bourbon, but it was like $100-something. And sorry, but not getting my money for that. I'm not. No. Was it Kevin Costner?
Unless Matthew McConaughey was a part of it.
Is Kevin
you know what?
Costner,
Matthew McConaughey, it sucked. I would probably buy it because Beth's hot. I don't know. Beth from Yellowstone.
You know why? Because Beth's
hot.
absolutely insane. That's why you like her.
Oh, probably.
Her and Lauren Boebert.
I don't know.
Psychopath.
Just have a thing for crazies. I don't know.
Well, we're still trying to reach out to get
You know
Lauren
what's
on the
fun for
podcast.
Oscar? Getting murdered in the middle of the night. Just the excitement of it. Like, am I going to wake up tomorrow? I don't know.
Is it good?
Is my life insurance going to be claimed by 8 a.m.? Who knows?
But yeah, guys, Yellowstone, I'm going to let Jameson kind of take it over for the background, but
Sure.
It's been around since the 1800s, right?
Yeah, I mean, they closed, they opened, they closed. But, I mean, the biggest thing is the master distillers are Stephen and Paul Beam. And if you guys recognize that last name, there's a reason for that. So they can trace their lineage back to their great-great-great-great-grandfather, Jacob Beam, who was the founder of Jim Beam, right? So it is a ton of history that goes into this bottle, which is pretty cool. They do their bourbon process is a little bit more complex. So a lot of times when you're distilling bourbon, they keep it at a specific temperature throughout the entire process. With these guys, what they do is they split it up into 3 different phases at 3 different temperatures. Their grain and their mash bill is a little bit different as well. So, and as you guys can kind of see, if you're watching this, if you're listening, it is a much lighter color than what we've been drinking. That is because not that it's a lighter bourbon, but they use a different type of corn. Yep. So it is a high corn mash bill, which should lend to some sweetness, especially at it's at 93
even
proof,
the nose,
right?
just opening the bottle and smelling that, I was a bit surprised.
Yeah. So if you look at the mash bill itself, it's 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. But the corn itself is different. So it's an open pollinated white heirloom corn, which is where it gets that lighter color.
Interesting.
Right?
Well, you said hold on.
Is
hold
it,
on.
it sound,
Hold
that,
on, you
that
said
described like
12
hominy to me.
Hold on, you said 12% barley, malted barley?
13 rye, 12% malted barley. Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
higher
we've been
corn
doing like
and
5%.
yeah, but I mean that's just going to lead more into the sweetness.
Correct. It should.
So yeah,
It should.
No wheat.
like,
Here's
yeah,
here's the
I
interesting
think it's
part.
going to be a little.
it's going to be a little sweet.
Here's the interesting part. So there is a yeast strain that they use that is specific to the great great grandfather, which was reclaimed through DNA from a yeast jug that was on display in the Oscar Getz Whiskey Museum in Bardstown, Kentucky. So essentially, they Jurassic Parked this shit.
Science, bitches.
They Jurassic Parked this shit, and they basically took the DNA profile of yeast in a jug from a museum to bring back into essentially bioengineer the yeast that's used in here. That was the same yeast that was used back in the 1800s. So kind of cool, right?
Interesting.
Take
what
that,
they-
Steven Spielberg.
What they do is it's called a 3-stage temperature cook. So they have it at one temperature and they add the corn. Once they add the corn, they lower the temperature the first time. Then they add the rye, they lower the temperature again, and then they add the barley and they lower the temperature a third time. So I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. Obviously, people like to get fancy and cute when it comes to distilling bourbon, but if you're purposely lowering the temperature every time, to me, it should start to bring out those flavors of each phase a little bit more versus all of them being fermented at the same
Or
temperature.
later.
Right.
When you do any cooking,
Yep.
you cook the main portion of the dish to a certain temp, and then you add later the garlic and whatever else you're going to put in so you don't burn it, because garlic, once it gets to a certain point, it's toasty and it gets bitter. So that's kind of
So
like
you
cooking.
said by the time they
It's
get
kind
to
of
the
like cooking,
barley,
and I think it'll mellow out the extras and bring out. I think the corn's going to be.
well, I was going to say you said the barley
Prominent.
was the last step and that was
Correct.
the lowest temperature.
Yes.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially based on a couple episodes where we learned, like
They
you said,
start at 200 degrees and then they lower it from there.
Yeah.
Every single stage of ingredient that they add.
Okay.
And then it turns into a distiller's beer, essentially,
Yep.
just 15 to 20%. And then they move that to the copper tanks, and then they let that ferment down. And then once it's fermented down and it turns into, basically they take 250 gallons of what's called low wine at 25 to 30%, and they get that down to a 53-gallon barrel of whiskey. And then once they have that, then they move it to American char oak barrels and they begin the aging process. It doesn't say, and I don't know if it says it on the bottle, how long they age it for, but
I mean, it has to be a minimum of 3 years.
Yeah,
Right?
we didn't even check because we were looking for.
Yep.
We almost brought some whistle pig.
Yeah.
You were like, all right, no, we got to change it up a
You
bit.
got to go a little bit lower.
And then there was this other one that the coloring, remember? We did,
Yeah.
like tequila. It was super light.
super light. But I mean,
So
it
anyway.
makes sense though with the lowest temperature being on the malted barley, because a couple episodes back we had one that they emphasized a certain kind of malted barley for, remember the flour? It was like a baking one
Yep.
to make it sweeter. So
or wheat.
Yeah.
From
the wheat.
from the Mississippi River,
Yeah.
that specific wheat that was
Yeah.
made to use pastries, I think is what it was.
yeah, and so they took that, and so it makes sense that that's the coldest step because that's going to condense all of those sugars a little
Right.
bit more,
Yep.
which is going to bring it out. So, right off the bat, Oscar, I'm going to call that you don't like this one.
Okay.
I'm just going to.
I think it's going to be bitter, to tell you the truth. I don't know if it's going
really
to be sweet.
See, I think it's going to. Okay, all right, and guys, this is 93 proof.
With the high corn, I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
I think this is going to be a 93 proof, so 46 points,
46.5.
46.5%. So lower than the 115s we've been doing again, but it's going to be interesting to go from that to this and see, especially with the high mash and high corn. We'll see. Well, let's get some cheers going, boys. Get the nose on it.
Salud.
Oh yeah, right off the bat, it's extremely sweet. Makes sense that the burn's not there very much.
Oh, I also figured out the aging.
Yeah.
It's small batch, so it's a mix between 4 and 7 year aged barrels.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
I'm getting cherry
Yep.
like nobody's business.
Very subtle oak.
Yep.
Very subtle.
But
wood.
I'm getting cherry.
I'm getting like 7-Up.
Yeah.
Like cherry 7-Up?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Like that
soda.
citrus.
Yeah.
Okay. This is gonna be it's gonna be a fun one.
This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like we've been so used to the darker stuff.
It still has legs,
Yeah.
though, which is surprising for how light it is.
But it's very thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, boys, I'm gonna go ahead and get that first sip. Okay.
Oh yeah.
First sip, you definitely get hit with the burn a little bit. Obviously 93, so it's not as much, but
I feel like a bundt cake.
yeah, it's that's sweet, that back end sweetness, and it's exactly like the sweetness we've been having has been very much more like that caramel, like
It's
toffee.
It's like a sweet cornbread.
Yeah, yeah.
Or was it angel food cake? Right?
That really light one.
I love
Yeah.
very like sponge cake almost, but like no, because I mean that has like vanilla in it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like no
vanilla
flavor. It's just
right.
cakey. Really
Yeah,
like
this one
spongy.
doesn't, especially compared to the ones that we've been having. This one's not very identifiable with the sweetness. It's there, but it's not like, oh, this is vanilla, this is caramel.
Right.
This is,
It has a flavor profile of just sweet.
yeah,
The initial taste, it hits you with the sweet first and then everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very sweet.
the wood is very, very minimal on it.
I mean, we're all spot on.
Yeah, yeah. What do the
this.
notes say?
So the notes on the nose say rye spice with soft leathered cherries. I don't know if that means you wrap cherries in leather and
Or
eat
maybe
both, or
dehydrated.
if they're like just into bondage. I don't know what that means.
Bondage cherries. A little rough.
50 Shades of Cherry.
Oh man.
Palate is smoked caramel.
Yep.
So I can get that with kind of the bundt, and then you were saying with oak, and then the finish smoky oak, and then brown sugar.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very pastry forward.
The back of the palate is definitely like it sits with that pastry sweetness.
It does have a lingering bitter.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
I
what,
would
so this
say-
could
like
get somebody
pepper.
hooked on bourbon.
Yes, I was gonna say
what?
the
This is get somebody hooked
mouthfeel
on
of
bourbon.
this. Like it's funny that you said like when you smell it, it's very light. It's very, very silky,
Yes,
very light on the
it is.
tongue.
It is.
Makes sense with the obviously the corn and the color of it in general, but definitely a not where I thought it was gonna go.
No.
A little bit more smoky
Yes.
than I thought.
Yeah.
But it plays
The
very well.
aftertaste is the back of the palate.
Yep.
It lingers a little bit because to me, I get hit with that sweetness or the caramel right up front,
Yep.
and then as it goes through, the aftertaste is it's not bitter, but it's smoky, but it's not like
It's tart.
yeah, it's not overwhelmingly. It's not like a smoked old fashioned type of feel. So,
But I think that this would do great smoked
yes,
with the light flavor that it has if you
would
smoke
take on
this.
the smoke
especially
well.
with some like a cherry wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Peach.
We're gonna have
Or
to-
you know what? Actually, I take
Apple.
that back. You know what? I think like a hickory to kind of offset the sweetness a little bit would be pretty good.
Yeah. Huh. We're gonna have to.
I
do a
really got to
smoke
bring
on
in
here.
my
Yeah, we're gonna.
my thing.
We're gonna
I
have
I
have
was
to
gonna
do
bring
a
my thing
frother.
too. Yeah,
We're
my
gonna.
frother.
We're gonna, guys. We promise we're gonna start bolstering up the YouTube with a little bit more bourbon content and try and do more fun stuff with that.
It's
too.
hard, but when you guys leave 600 comments on boomers needing to be killed by millennials, I can't keep up.
right? Well, hey, speaking of can't keep it up, technology, right? And
Just super funny. One of the trends, I'm looking at top trends in real estate right now, top tech trends rather, and the very first one is millennials and Gen Zs run the world.
right. Well, and honestly, it's going to be interesting to see, and because people who don't embrace technology, the internet, they're going to fall behind,
Yep.
and that's where again we get into that boomer conversation of like, there's so many people, and at the same time, like we used to work in tech retail. Like I used to hate when boomers came in, not because they asked me questions, but like to see the pain in their face
Yep.
when they were like, "Can you show me how to do this?" And for me, it was literally like, "Doop doop doop, done." But I had one come up to me and they were like, "Thank you so much for taking the time to explain and go through the steps." My grandson just takes it, doesn't, throws my phone back at me, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, technology is growing so rapidly. We have the AI now, we have AR and VR, we have digital walkthroughs, we talked about it in the past, virtual staging, where they're just placing stuff in an empty room. And I think all of this to say, it's a good movement. Overall, it's a great movement because I feel like it's going to create a little bit more of an option and transparency. And what I wanted to talk to about with the tech is something that I'm actually implementing in the production business side of it. The real estate photography is not artificial intelligence, but virtual reality, VR and augmented reality. And if you go on Amazon right now, you go look for couches, and a lot of the couches on Amazon have the view in your room.
Yeah.
Best Buy has that whole app too.
Yeah.
Like you can put
Sherman
a TV
Williams.
on your wall.
You can paint your walls.
Yep.
Lazy Boy. They have but again, it just goes to show.
There's Snapchat filters. I can look bald.
Right? But
Or I can look like I have hair.
Hey.
like there's good and bad stuff about it, but for me, I think what the pandemic did by forcing everybody inside, not being able to do it, it bolstered the idea and opened the realm of technology in spaces like this. And for me, the reason that I really want to embrace virtual reality is because I would love to be able to go into a home with a VR camera, 360 camera, and then just have a file and say, hey, here you go. This is a VR file. If you have an Oculus 2, if you have the new Apple Vision Pro Quest, if you have whatever it is, all you have to do is upload this, and you can walk through this house and see it. You don't have to come here. And any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out. And it is that simple. You can legitimately put on the goggles and be standing in the living room. And I think that, and the reason I say it as transparency is because, a lot of the time with virtual staging and staging in general, it's made to warrant the sale, right? You want to make it look a certain way. So imagine now we get to a point where I can give you 3 virtual tours. Each one has, a modern look. One has a little older look. One has like a barn look. And now you can explore the options a little bit more rather than leaving it to the imagination.
Or what's your taste?
Yep.
What does your decor look like, and then snap it into the house. That does a lot, because a lot of times you walk into a vacant home and you can't picture your stuff in it. Yep. So it'll help. And there's going to be a lot of realtors that are not up to date with technology and feel a little vulnerable with this, and like, what am I going to be obsolete? Well, at least my perspective on that and what I offer the general public is not opening doors and showing houses. That's not my expertise. Anybody can do that. It's navigating and knowing the law and negotiations of the contract. So for me, I'm like, let's do it.
Well, I look at it 2 ways. So if I am the point of technology, the good technology, right, moves us forward. And a lot of people will say, well, what do you mean it moves us forward? In my head, like, if you boil it down, what is technology? What's its main goal?
Make our lives easier.
Right. Make our lives easier. So I look at it and I say, okay, if I'm a seller, right, and I am working with an agent that, is embracing technology, or the seller's embracing technology on marketing and selling the house, one of the most disruptive things that happen during a home being on the market for the seller is what? Showings, open houses, right?
Especially in a state like Colorado where you're dragging snow and,
just in general,
salt through the house.
In general, right? Like I look at it like, if I'm a seller and I'm just trying to sell my house and I live there still, it is disruptive to my life if I am at the mercy of showings being scheduled. And it could be, I get a showing at, I request at 2 p.m. for a showing at 5. I got to get the dogs out. I got to get my kids out. I may be in the middle of work. I may work from home.
Not only that, dinner time,
whatever it is, right? And then I got to be at the house for 2 hours. Then I got to wait for somebody to tell me, hey, I can come back to the house. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is, what if I am a seller that has tenants in the house? And now, as a realtor, I have to go through and I have to talk to the tenants.
That's a big one.
I have to sit there and say, hey, guys, here's what the deal is. We have an agreement to show the house, but tenants aren't always, compliant in that, and then it makes it harder to market the house.
I was just having that conversation.
Right. That's kind of why I brought it up. We had this, Oscar was talking to a client right before. But I look at it and say, okay, well, if I'm a seller and I'm working with an agent that says, hey, here's one thing that I provide. I provide virtual reality tours of your home. Why does that matter? Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, from a buyer standpoint, it's easier for them. Buyer doesn't have to drive 20 miles here just to go look at a house that they hate, right? So now it saves the buyer's time. From a seller standpoint, it's less disruption on your life, because now you can just sit at home and be eating dinner, and the buyer or the client, whoever it is, can put on a set of VR goggles, download your home, your floor plan, and virtually walk through it. They can have their critiques and so on and so forth without needing to physically be there and make those decisions, right? Well, people always want to walk the space 100%. And that could be something where, to me, the virtual reality tours are the
opening door,
the filter, right? Yeah. Of like, okay, I really do want to go see this house, but it eliminates unnecessary hurdles and
schedule
frustrations or schedule issues.
To layer on top of what
for
you're
those
saying
sellers.
on the buy side, scheduling is a big deal, right? You have to take time away from work if the scheduling can't be done for the home. And fellow insomniacs, what do you do at 12 o'clock at night? You scroll through the internet.
Right.
You can't sleep. Hey, throw on the goggles, look through homes while you're, everybody's asleep and you have downtime. If you have children, nighttime is when you do your shopping online and everything else. And, the schedule for the seller and the buyer, you take that out of the equation and it helps promote your property.
Right. And I mean, if you look at it, right, if you're an agent that's watching this, to Oscar's point, like, am I going to be obsolete? No, you're not. There's always going to be the human interaction part that's needed. This is just more, can you proposition yourself and your value, and can the seller see that and say, hey, you know what, that'd be great. Now, Charlie, you can maybe do a 30,000 foot overview of what it would take to just, because you can't just say, hey, here's a virtual reality tour. Obviously, there's steps involved to get that done. But from my understanding, and you can kind of enlighten us, it's not as intrusive as people think.
No, not at all. And that's the whole thing. I was actually going to say too is technology around the VR space in the last 5 years has exploded. It used to be, if you wanted to do a 360 VR thing, you had to go buy 10 GoPros and develop a rig where you set cameras up and then you have to stitch all the videos together. Now you have GoPro, Insta, Meta. They have cameras that are made specifically for 360 and even editing programs now. You port that right in, and instead of having to clip everything together, it recognizes the metadata and you just edit it like you would a normal video.
Right. So if you're a listing agent and you say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mr. Mrs. Seller, I do have an option that to us it's very similar to, I know you're the same way. I pay for photos, video walkthroughs, drone photos, all that kind of stuff for my clients. Well, if I now have an option to say, hey, this is a separate option that maybe I charge or I add on and we can do one or the other, it's going to take maybe an hour and a half of your time to have my individual come in, stage the home, and set up this virtual tour. But what it's going to allow, that extra 2 hours in the beginning is going to save you 5, 10, 15, 20 hours of having to leave your house, lock up your dogs, worry about your cat getting
let's
out,
call it a day.
all that kind of stuff.
Let's say, hey,
let's
let's call it a day.
Yep.
We'll start in the morning. You go work, do whatever. Give us the house for a day, because that one day is going to eliminate days of showings.
Well, and think about it,
and,
right? So
and
Oscar,
hundreds of eyes on your home.
Right. So that's the other piece of this, right? So how many, let's say we go to, like, if you have a buyer client that's looking and they have criteria they're looking for, right? And you set up showings. How many showings does it normally take for that buyer to go, ooh, I want to make an offer on this house? In a normal market where they're not being rushed.
At least 10.
Okay, so 10,
I was going
right?
to say, and I did, and I'll tell you guys, like I had a client where we did 7 showings in a day. And and I know where you're going with it. That's where I say it is, you don't realize that you're going to spend 30 minutes in a house, but then you got to drive 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, drive another 20 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, drive. That stuff builds up. And it was hard fitting 7 showings at 7 different properties in one day.
Yes, and that's from a buyer standpoint. From a seller standpoint, right now in Castle Rock, I was just looking at it because I was pulling up some data for another client. It's taking an average for a single house on the market, 15 showings before an offer is submitted currently, right? So that means as a seller, I have at least 15 different groups of people that are walking through my house physically, right? Of those 15, 14 of them are making disparaging comments, commenting on your design choice, saying the layout sucks, the backyard's too small, so on and so forth. So you just have 14 groups of people walking through your house for no reason. With a virtual reality tour set up and as an option for a seller, you may be able to cut that down to like 5. What does that eliminate? Obviously, wear and tear on the house, cleanliness, anxiety or anything around potential theft or doors being unlocked, all that kind of stuff. You get rid of all of those headaches. You're still able to market the house successfully to the right group of buyers that you're looking for. And then as the agent, now once we start getting offers, we can now spend the time making sure that your interests are protected and all that kind of stuff. That part doesn't change. All it changes is the intrusiveness in your life has now been mitigated by something like a virtual reality tour.
And it's exciting for relocation people.
Yeah.
I've actually...
We're dealing with one right now.
Yeah. We went, we did a video for someone in New Jersey, but in the past, before, where we are with technology, I did a Skype with a guy, He was in, I think, the Carolinas, somewhere in the Carolinas. And I called him up on my phone, and sketchy, service, but we got it done. He loved the house because he saw it online, and he wanted me just to go into certain rooms and then give him some dimensions, and we walked it. He bought the house. Mm-hmm. The first time he saw the house was on inspection. He flew in for the inspection, met him for the first time, said, "Thank you for doing that. I do love this house." Flew back out for the closing. So I'm sure that cost him at least $1,000 in airfare and lodging. Now, if we do virtual, that saves the consumer $1,000 with just a virtual,
And to your point, I mean, I think that's as we all know, humans are, reactive, right? We like
lazy,
instant,
yeah, we'll go reactive.
Instant gratification, right? Now imagine that instead of somebody has to sit in a car and wait and drive around and look, they go, "Hey, I found this great place." You send us to them. They see it. They're in there. That's going to prime them a little bit faster to go, "Oh, yeah, right? Like, I want to do that."
Not only that, to your point earlier, how many houses can you see virtually in an hour?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
At least 7.
At least.
At least 7. How many houses in real time can you see in an hour?
2, maybe.
Maybe
If they're in
two.
the same
They're,
neighborhood.
yeah, they're right down the street.
You gotta
Yep.
preview the house, which should take 10, 15 minutes, but then you gotta drive,
Yep.
right? And then all that pleasantries and talk, you can see way more houses and be sure of what you're looking for. I have clients that still look at homes, and if they're unsure, I tell them to drive by the house before we go look at them.
Yep.
Because they're gonna go drive by the house later after work or first thing in the morning or whatever, and then do the showing. So that eliminates a lot of that.
Well, I'm calling it right now, and I'm glad the internet is eternal, right? I'm calling it right now. With stuff like the Meta Quest 2 and the Apple Pro Vision, augmented reality, AR, where things are in front of you, are becoming phenomenally larger in the market, right? Right now, you can put on a Meta Quest 2, sit at your laptop, and then the goggles will put 3 extra computer monitors in front of your face. So you can just look up and you have 3 more monitors that you can navigate. Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I have one at home.
Right.
I am behind
See?
on technology.
See? Right.
I'm
but
gonna
now,
be at home doing that
but now
today.
imagine I can go, cool. Hey guys, we don't really have to pay for virtual staging. But what I would love to do is have an Apple Vision Pro Quest or a Meta Quest 2 there, and when you walk into the house, now you can put those goggles on, and as you're looking around this completely empty house, like us who were saying, you could flip through modern, town, whatever it is, and you can see different things come up. I'm calling it now. In the next 10 years, that's going to be a thing, right?
You know what?
It's going to be a thing.
You could do your buyer's consultation and say, here, put on these goggles, cast it, and show them properties without leaving your office.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
and let's take it one step further. So we said millennials we number 73 million, right? Mm-hmm. Baby boomers were at 69 million.
69.5 or something like that.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those baby boomers right now are aging out of their homes. We talked about it last week, the silver tidal wave or the silver tsunami, right? Well, I look at it and I say, okay, if that is true and all these baby boomers houses are now going to be put on the market, they may be 70, 75, 80 years old, looking A, for somewhere new to downsize, B, to sell their house and have to show it. And I'm sorry, but I think of like my grandparents and their, not difficulty, but it takes more effort to get up, get out of the house. They want to clean the house beforehand to make sure it's good. It's a lot of energy at 80 years old trying to sell a house. This could solve that, because in my head, if you have augmented reality and virtual reality showings and tours, you could essentially strip the house of all of the knickknacks and the couches and everything else, still step into the space, and now your grandmother or grandfather doesn't have to worry about getting up and calling you to help them put their dog away or help them, go to a coffee shop and then remove them from their lives at 80 years old just to show a house to somebody that 92% of the time will not be interested in.
What's the stat for consumers buying or selling over the age of 65? Because in my career,
I mean, it's going to be.
I've had little to no senior citizens.
Oh, it's going to be massive. We talked about last week. In the next 5 years, it was. I want to say it was 27 million homes that would be being bought or sold by aging baby boomers over the next 5 years.
It's wild.
That's interesting.
It's wild.
Right? So it's going to be a big thing. But and the beauty of it is they, from a selling standpoint, don't have to do anything different. They just allow us in. with our crew that will come in and do the cameras and all that kind of stuff. And then we
set
say, hey,
everything up.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller,
Take a
great
day,
news.
Go visit some family.
Well, what about showings? Don't worry about showings. We're going to do it virtually. I'm going to put it in the listing. Hey, you
And-
know what? The only showings that are available are virtual.
Yep.
If you have interest in the house, you have to do a virtual tour first.
Boom.
Right?
And that's what was happening during COVID, so they can't say it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's
Dude,
proven
I
that it
talked
works.
to you. So vulnerable moment. Okay. I'm in therapy,
shoot.
right? Once or twice a month, once a month right now. And I have my therapist.
What was
is
once a
in
month?
My therapy.
Oh.
Right. It's for my head game. And my therapist is in Aurora. I've never met her in person. We talk virtually. every
Mine
single
was in
time.
Wyoming.
There is no, for me, there is no difference
Nope.
between having that conversation because I'm comfortable with it. I understand the technology. I'm used to it, right? And to Oscar's point, when we talk about the pandemic, that's how everything was being handled anyway. So to me, like I love it in the sense that I know for a fact I will be listing aging individuals' homes, and to be able to have that as an option to say, hey, you know what? My goal is to not interrupt your life and still get this house sold for top dollar. This is one of the ways that we can do it so that you don't have to worry about moving. You can not moving. You don't have to worry about leaving the house for 2 hours at a time, letting me host an open house. You can concentrate on packing and, getting movers done and moving into the new place and your next phase of whatever that life looks like. And then we'll take the virtual tours. And then once we have an interested buyer, that's when we take over.
Well, and I was going to say that's the cool thing with the technology expanding, right? And it's obviously we have. I will say that there needs to be more regulation around it.
Before we get off that topic, you would think that would cut the buyers in half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people want to be in the homes.
Right.
But you are not risking not bringing in the right person into the
Correct,
house
exactly.
with VR.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep.
And that's what I mean when I talk about regulation, right? We need to have the understanding, because the people right now that are making the laws and approving these laws, most of them are the boomer generation, and half of them don't know how to operate an iPhone correctly, right? Like,
Well, and then there's ways around the law, right?
Yeah.
Because my inspectors, they use drones to inspect the roof.
Really?
He got there. Mm-hmm.
I just
He got
tossed
there.
children up there.
Well, that's how we used to do it in the back. way back in
old
day.
ladder.
So he showed up, and he was going to start in the exterior, and he said, "We're going to start with the interior." We were in Parker, so there's an Air Force base or some
Buckley?
Something's out there, right?
Oh, we
And-
know all about that.
Right. So I said, so you're not going to be able to use the drone? He goes, no. I shoot an email, they approve it, and then I do it. So when
Unless
it was
you're in-
done, the
unless you're
email
in-
came back, and he did the drone.
Well,
well,
you're
it's,
an
no,
FAA
and that's what
regulated
it's that easy. It's honestly, it's that easy. I use drones for
because we're so advanced
Yeah.
now. Because
It's-
that was a big thing.
It's as easy as getting on the app and literally requesting. It sends it to their system, and it's reviewed automatically. And then it comes back to you. You get a signature, and you're clear to fly in the space.
5 years ago, I want to say it was 5 years ago, I was at the board, DMAR, the Board of Realtors, and they were wanting you to get a license, a pilot's license, just to fly the drones, and look at that. That's gone out the door because we've researched and we made the right choices, I think.
So last thing on the virtual tour, we can move on to the next one I want to talk about. The biggest hurdle, I think, with any new technology, right, is cost. Because if you truly want to utilize this technology, it's got to be something that's readily available for people. And there's a lot of people that are not going to drop $200 or $300 on a MetaQuest or the Apple goggles, so on and so forth.
So I'm
Like,
saying, come to my office. I have that.
Oh, wait,
Correct,
Hold on,
yes.
Hold on. I'm sitting on it.
Right.
I'm going to let Jameson
yeah.
finish. but I'm
So
sitting
I
on
think
it.
that's something where, to Oscar's point, having that availability is going to be very, very key. But that doesn't help for relocation, right?
And hold on, bomb dropped. Everybody go to Google, type in Google Cardboard VR. It's legitimately, you go to Google and they have an entire schematic basically. You get a cardboard box and you print out this little sheet and it tells you how to cut the box, and then you set your phone into the box and you put it up to your eyes, and the programming on VR, you program it to a phone and now you have VR. That's it. That's simple. So if you already have a smartphone,
The Switch
take
has
some
that too.
cardboard.
That's
right?
simple. However, we know human beings are very lazy.
But all I'm saying is like that's just it's proof of concept. That
It is
it's
proof of
getting
concept,
cheaper.
yes,
Like
yes,
there,
yes.
don't
Charlie,
think,
now I got to buy scissors, and I can't run with them inside the house.
Don't think that you're limited based on
Right.
the
There's
amount.
options.
There are options. And
There
I
are
mean,
options.
honestly, you go into any Goodwill right now, Goodwill thrift store, there's some kind of like an old Samsung VR sitting there, whatever. You just slide your phone in, and it's literally just download.
No,
a free
yeah, I
app,
get that.
you know?
I guess what I'm saying though is when you
I mean,
talk about
what are the rights to Macklemore? Because I think we need that in the background.
right.
yeah,
What?
I'm gonna drop some cash. But yeah, so I think that's the biggest hurdle that we're gonna see. But like we've seen with other technologies, as there's more use cases for it, it does get cheaper.
Yep.
So I think that is something like, you can get Ray-Bans right now that have the little camera from that other.
Yeah.
Let's not even
$150.
take it to that point. How much were TVs back in the day?
Right, exactly.
You get a 45-inch flat screen,
Yeah.
and 10 years ago, you were going to drop $2K.
Yep.
Yep.
Right now,
Yep.
you could go get a 80-inch and drop $900.
Right. Well, and that's speaking of like the advancement of technology, and one thing in the big, I don't want to say elephant in the room, but the big scary umbrella is artificial
Is this
intelligence.
a virtual elephant?
Yes, a
Is
virtual
he here
elephant.
with us right now?
It's always around.
Okay.
Is artificial intelligence, right?
Sphere in Vegas. Oh, wow.
A lot of people go, oh, well, how can you how does artificial intelligence go into buying a home?
Mm-hmm.
But, you have places like Zillow, Redfin, all these big companies that are embracing AI in a way where they're using these algorithms to do comparative market analyses, right? So they're dumping a bunch of data from the market that they have into this algorithm, and then the algorithm's spitting out a Zestimate, right? And that's something that, really wanting to address that AI is a phenomenal tool for us to dump off some back end processes in the brain, right? Write me a video description. Hey, write me a script. Help me build an Excel sheet. That kind of stuff is great. But when it comes to more serious notions, like a home valuation, right? There are little idiosyncrasies that the algorithm really doesn't, not yet at least, have programmed into it. So what you guys have to realize with AI and how it's based is, think about it as a funnel, right? AI is going to start at the top of the funnel, and it's going to take all of that information and then compose it and use that same information and apply it to the baseline. But there's so many times where you're doing a comparative market analysis and you set a 5 mile, 8-10 mile radius, and this house is still out of the ordinary. Right now, a lot of that AI is not tailored to account for, is the square footage this much more compared to the other 10? Does this one have, like a smart home system with AC control that'll tell you if something's going wrong with your ductwork? Does it have a tracing for your water supply or anything like that?
Look for.
It doesn't.
You put a native,
Yep.
Colorado, against AI, we're going to know more.
Yep.
Well, so yes, that's a good point.
And all the scary stuff, alpha and room, the scary stuff from AI, it was already happening. It was data mining has been going on since the internet was here. So it's just now AI is doing it.
Well, AI, the easiest way I can explain the way it works, is really in any capacity, right, is the output, like what you get from AI, is only as good as what the input is, right? And the best way that I've thought about for the last 6 seconds is working out. Okay?
Yeah.
I go to the gym 5 days a week.
I have my AI.
And so here's the deal. So I do my lifting and I, do certain exercises. I'll split my days between like push days and pull days and so on and so forth. Okay. And I go probably more often than the average person goes to the gym. I consider myself in good shape.
Beefcake.
Right?
Gym rat.
But if I put myself up against a professional bodybuilder that does shows, my cousin is one of them. Shout out Sydney. She's phenomenal. She will go through, and when she does competitions, she works out probably the same amounts, like days-wise, as I do. However, she's measuring macros, carbohydrate intake, protein intake. She's
Time of
measuring
day.
type of day.
It's a different
She's
show.
measuring.
Yeah.
She's measuring reps and weight by the half pound. She's got a specific plan in place. So like if she does a show, right? Let's say the show's in October, her training starts in January.
Yep.
And there's levels and phases and bulking and cutting and all these different things. So her input is going to have a very different output, even if the time at the gym by and large is the same. If we both work out for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? Her input is going to manifest itself in a very different outcome than mine will.
To another
so
level
from an
too.
AI standpoint, when you talk about like price
Pricing.
prediction and whatnot, the input is going to determine the output. to Oscar's point, when we look at houses, I just did this yesterday as I was putting a comparative analysis together for a client. I came up with a price point of between $720,000 and $740,000 for this particular property out in Parker. If I put it into Real Property Resource, which is RPR, we use that all the time, right? And they have the RMA, which is a real market evaluation, and AVR, which is an adjustable variance rate, whatever. Their price that they took to this house was $820,000. If I put that and I start looking at the actual home, the neighborhood, what kind of street it's on, the way it faces, what things have sold in that area, even though it has that same information, we're $80,000 off. Why?
Well, and again, I hate that you brought up fitness. I was a fitness junkie.
Fergie.
I know I don't look it these days, but we were in the gym a lot. In competition too, I was dialed in, and everyone's different, right? Everyone's body reacts different to supplements. I have tried most supplements that are on the market in some kind of variation, and what worked for me. Some of the supplements I might have taken might not work for you or react to your body the same. I had, again, shout out to Steve Larios. He did competition too, but we were always in the gym, and he told me, I'm going to go do a competition. I was like, okay, we were in great shape back then. He hired a coach. I was like, what do you need a coach for? We're doing just fine. That coach dialed him in.
Yep.
It's another set of eyes, and like, you need to work on your lats, you need to work on your deltoids, you need to work on, your abdominal area, and dialed him in.
Time under tension,
and
like all of that matters.
Dialed him in, not only in the gym, but his nutrition and his supplement intake.
Correct.
Well,
which again, we could all go to the gym the same amount.
Yes.
It's what we add on to that, and
to make
endorsing
that,
us, we're the coach.
well, and to make that, relate that back to real estate when it comes to carbohydrate intake, that could be square footage of your home. When it comes to time of day to eat, that could be the updates that you did to the cabinets. When it comes to your calories or your carbohydrates that you're taking in,
refined sugars,
whatever it is, that could be an extra room that you added on, or an AD, the ability to build an ADU on the property. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, is there are so many variables, and we talk about this all the time, that go into it, where yes, artificial intelligence is a valuable tool, but it is not the end all be all. It is not something that, as a seller, and
it's
again,
going to be a great aid.
Yes. And don't get me wrong. A lot of people that want to sell their houses on their own, I feel for them, because that is a tool that they're going to utilize. But if you go with that, if you go with this estimate,
might be mishandled.
Exactly. And you list it at that price, but you have agents around you listing at their own prices, your home is now totally off the market, because you trusted this umbrella quote versus tailoring it into specific details about your home.
And really, I'm sure you've all done it. What happens when you do sell my house with either Zillow or Open Door? Half the time it's 50 to maybe even 100,000 below what you think it might be. Even from a real estate standpoint, we get those emails that say, "Hey, let us submit an offer over," and their algorithm is to make them money too. So they're going to take in consideration remodel, anything they have to update, or in realtor fees. So it's at least $80K under.
Yeah.
Let's take it a step further, and let's say, okay, from a seller standpoint, right? And I'm working with an agent. How do I, as an agent, offer something that's a differentiating factor from any other agent? If I'm listing a house, right, my number one job is to sell that home. The way to sell that home is via marketing, right? Well, right now, how do we market? Google SEO. We put it on the major MLSs on the internet. We hold open houses. We allow showings. We use our human network.
The big stuff.
Yeah, we use our human network if we have certain clients that we know are looking for this type of house, right? So now let's take it and say, okay, well, if I'm an agent that understands how artificial intelligence works, how can I then take that to farm and create demand for this house that I'm listing, right? So let's say it is a 4-bed, 3-bath ranch on a quarter of an acre in a certain neighborhood, okay? Well, if I'm me, I'm looking at specific things when I'm looking for a house. So if I, as a listing agent, can utilize artificial intelligence to specifically target those potential buyers and say, hey, not only do I have a house and I blast it out to 7,500 agents in Douglas County, do you have a buyer? Let me know. I can actually go and I can take handwritten letters, or I can take personalized emails to potential clients that artificial intelligence has told me that they're looking to move in the next 6 months. Their children, based on public data, are in college, so they're empty nesters, so they want to downsize. They have a job at so-and-so, so they're looking to move into this specific zip code. And I can go, hey, this is what I can do for you. I can use artificial intelligence, and I can reach out, I'm going to sound bad, and touch personally buyers that are interested in your home based on the criteria, versus another agent may go, well, yeah, I put it on the internet.
Well, and
okay.
you know what's funny?
You know what I mean? Like,
I'll take it back to prehistoric times before the internet. I would list a house, and when I would list it, I would flyer the neighborhood. And I would flyer the neighborhood and knock on doors and say, hey, I'm listing this house. Who do you know that may or may not want to pick your neighbor? Do you have anybody that wants to buy or sell? Here's my information. Here's a CMA of your home if you want to sell. I would come from contribution, and I would leave them alone.
Yep.
But I would go 15 doors that way, 15 doors that way on each side of the block. I don't need to do that anymore.
Yep.
Because of the internet.
Exactly.
So it's actually helped the way I do business.
right.
And it's funny.
And sometimes that old school stuff still works, but you got to look at it from a more advantageous standpoint from real estate, right? Because I've listed homes in Uptown and in the Five Points area, and some of those homes are old Victorian homes, right? And when the internet first started, I was one of the first to like just blast it out. I didn't just stay in Colorado. I blasted it out to the United States. Most of my stuff, I still have this program called Listing Magic. And then, they do Craigslist and all that weird stuff. But it would go outside of Colorado. I got phone calls from New York for one of my houses in North Cap Hill. And one was a producer. He wanted to rent the house for a movie. And that was like that
But
clicked it on for me to where the future of real estate was going in.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it now, and I'm seeing it a little more defined and cleaned up than I thought what's going to be.
Well, and Oscar, you bring up a great point, right? And that's something that I do as somebody who utilizes this technology in marketing and social media, whatever it is. That's something that I do want to clarify is that artificial intelligence is not new.
No.
Now, it is the new shiny material that artificial intelligence and everybody's pushing it. But what Oscar just described, that website was using an algorithm.
It's not new. I think the difference
It's more accessible.
It is more accessible.
to the masses.
Well, it's more accessible and it has more data.
Well,
right
it's
now.
a buzzword at this point,
Yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
everybody uses ChatGPT. Okay, cool. But if my point is, like, if I know that the house that I'm listing has a certain specific clientele that would be interested in that specific home, and I can use artificial intelligence as a listing agent to help me identify those households or that demographic or whatever that looks like, to then market. Obviously, I'm going to do the marketing for everything else, but specific marketing to those people. Now I can sit there and say, hey, how do you sell houses faster than anybody else? Well, I reach out to the people that actually want to buy this house.
I reach out to the
Right?
masses.
Not everybody wants to buy a $750,000 home, 2-story with a main floor master. But there are certain demographics that artificial intelligence can use data and searchable data points and Zillow search history and all these different things to go, these are the people that will buy that house.
At
what's
a
funny?
rate faster than humans can ever
I have
reach.
a very unique listing right now. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo in Uptown. There's not a lot of people looking for 1-bedroom, 1-bath condos in Uptown.
Right.
And it would probably take me a lot longer to sell that thing without the internet and AI.
Yep.
I have an interested party right now in it. And guess where they are?
California.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
and the agent said she's had an eye on your property for 3 months now.
Wow.
So it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it because I'm not marketing to Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
But it's there.
but it's there.
Right.
So in any aspect of anything in our lives, we're all human beings. Someone's gonna take that and make it ugly.
Yep.
It's just gonna happen, no matter what it's gonna be. And case in point, right now, Taylor Swift, the AI Taylor Swift nudie pictures that they're poor girl's being, she's on the chopping block right now.
Yeah, you can
It's
use
gonna
it with that.
happen.
You can
It's
use it
gonna
with
happen.
that. I think the point about artificial intelligence that I want to make is it shouldn't be scary, because to me it augments everything else that we do, right? And when it comes to buying and selling something as personal as real estate is, right? Because there's two different sides. There's the investor side that is just crunching numbers. Is this going to work? Are my margins good? Is my cash on cash return good? And that's all they care about.
You have
right?
an equation.
Which that's 25% of people that buy houses currently. That's a stat for all the people that are hating on my other post about investors. It's 25%, okay? 65%, 70% are human beings that have families and children and grandparents and so on and so forth. And artificial intelligence, as good as it is as at identifying data points, unless artificial intelligence is selling the house to another artificial intelligence, it will never get the human element.
No.
And that is the biggest gap that I don't personally believe will ever be bridged.
It's the
right?
classic sci-fi trope, right? Every sci-fi movie that, you have Terminator, you have any AI-based, like technology-based sci-fi movie, it always comes back
Eagle Eye.
to humanity.
Correct.
Like we emotion and perception are such a unique element when it comes to our interpersonal communication. AI will take years to replicate that because you're trying to replicate a virtually quantum computer in our brain.
Ridiculous,
right? Like it's going to take so much time for it to replicate anything like that.
I love that you love sci-fi movies because one of my favorite actors, Oscar Isaac, Ex Machina, great movie.
Yeah.
And if you want to take it a little more kid-friendly, Alita.
Yep.
Those are cool movies, but we are a very long time till we get there.
Yes.
A very, very long time.
Well, human beings are emotional. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all it
It's
is.
emotional.
And like
That's
Ex
it.
Machina, it has to do with lady robots.
Like literally,
And-
think about this, right? I've had buyers that have said they don't like a house because there was a specific type of tree in the yard.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Or no.
Please find me an artificial intelligence computer that can determine that Harry and Sally went to this house and were like, "Oh my God, is that a fucking oak tree?"
Without a
Fuck
500
oak trees.
something-
I want crab
something
apple.
that you-
fuck this
you
house. I'm
made.
out.
Be
without a
able to-
500 questionnaire.
Here's something
Right.
that AI may or may not do, but a big one for me, at least, when I'm showing, the upper echelon of homes. It doesn't have to be $1 million, but the upper echelon, 8, 9, and into the millions. You have homes that are backed by power lines, and that's a big one. And maybe AI could be trained for that, but it's still not right now.
But again, that's that. Now this is a complete circle moment. AI just does not. It needs so much information to get it down to a point where it will match a human's perception, human's wants and needs. That
No, dude,
it's not.
How many times
it's
do you,
not.
do you walk a buyer and they just go and
The vibes are off.
Rate the house 1 to 10. I don't know, like a 4. How come?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Don't we?
It
Yeah,
doesn't.
exactly.
There's something about it.
AI will never have the human element of emotion, and our brains work so fast that when you're interacting with this person, you are running millions of thought processes right now and understanding them throughout the showing process.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and guys, I think that this is a phenomenal conversation that I would even love to. Please, if you're a real estate agent, tune in. Like, let us know what you think.
Yeah,
Because
or what.
Yeah.
What you dislike or disagree.
yeah, because I think
This is an industry issue.
because I think there's so much possibility out there for us when it comes to AR, when it comes to VR, when it comes to AI marketing, when it comes to communication with AI, like sending emails, being readily available to your client. There's so much out there. So please reach out to us and comment. Let us know what you think. But I think this is a good time to move into our One Rock takeaway.
Before we get off technology, what I don't understand, and you'll relate, when you're ready, you'll relate. How the hell does my 2-year-old and my 5-year-old, they can't pick up their room or go to the freaking bathroom when they should, but you give them a tablet? I'm pretty sure my 2-year-old set up a Cash App. I don't know.
Because knowledge is compounding. And again,
Jesus,
I've
those
said
kids
it
are
multiple
scary,
times.
intelligent with their tablets.
Right? We
they
stand
can't
on
do
the backs of the
basic
giants that
human
came before us.
shit.
Like, we may not know how to use it, but like you just said, your kid's going to know how to utilize AI and make life so much easier for themselves way before you're going to know what to do because they're growing up with it. It is
It's
normal.
part of them.
It's a normal everyday function, right?
So not to start another movie argument, but I have to ask, right, as we're talking about AR and VR and the different things, please tell me, please, just for me, you've seen Minority Report.
Oh, absolutely.
No fucking way.
Shut up. He's.
Oh
wait.
my
I think that movie
No.
came. That movie came out when he was
No.
like 2.
No, dude.
Yes.
Oh my God. You've never seen Minority Report. Okay. Fucking goddamn it.
Wait. Have you seen Vanilla Sky?
No, it doesn't even matter. Just Okay, you're Oscar, I need help. Like Rain of Fire, I get that one. It's a little bit kind of a not known movie. It's got dragons and shit. So like some people, Minority Report with Tom Cruise is the best example of
AI.
every little thing we are talking about right now, because it goes AR, VR. It talks about predictive analytics to the point where
They'll
the
go
whole
arrest you
premise,
before
bro,
you do it.
the whole premise of the movie is using artificial intelligence to predict crime, and they have what's called a pre-crime unit that goes out and arrests people before they commit a crime.
For future,
It came out in
maybe.
2002. I was 9.
I don't
Right?
care.
I was 9.
I do not care. I
I'll
I am
watch it.
so
I'll watch
mad.
it. I'll watch
I am so like
I'll watch it.
you
I'll
have
watch
6 days.
it. All right. All right.
It's
Sounds
Friday,
good.
right? Our next podcast is Wednesday. So Friday, Saturday,
I mean,
Sunday,
I could
Monday,
see if
Tuesday.
it was like
You have 5 days
if
to
it
go.
was if it was like a cyberpunk movie,
Only
maybe,
because-
but it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
in it.
only
Come on.
because yes, it's Tom Cruise. So it's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Number one, the acting.
You've
in
seen
it,
Eagle Eye, right?
The acting in it is
With Shia LaBeouf.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
okay.
yes,
So
yes.
this is Eagle Eye. Talking about we stand on the backs of giants that came before us. Eagle Eye exists because
of
Minority Report. Okay, and not only is it just one of the highest rated movies of all time, it is so up your wheelhouse with literally everything. Like I'm in AR and VR, and this is what I do. Like.
Wait, while
you
you're
put
at it-
glasses on and you can put 3 different screens and blah blah blah. You
Hold on. While we're at it,
Hold on.
while we're
I
at
was
it,
gonna
you want a
say-
good laugh?
I can't.
Watch Demolition Man.
Well, all I was gonna say is
No.
welcome
No.
to
Demolition
to Two Dilfs and a Dink,
Yeah,
where
bro.
you got 2 older
Dude.
millennials.
Oh,
and
yeah,
younger
we're gonna
millennials.
talk about Demolition Man. Have you seen that?
No, but
with
you-
Wesley Snipes and
No.
Sylvester Stallone.
No.
I mean,
All right.
it's the future back in the early '90s and late '80s.
I could survey 10,000 people and maybe 9 would tell me they've never watched Minority Report.
Hey, in the comments, let us know. Have you ever seen Minority Report?
Yes, please do.
Let me know.
But
I'm interested.
Charlie has 5 days
I'll watch
to
it.
watch this
I'll watch
movie,
it.
and he's gonna come back, and I guarantee this is his reaction, guys. What the fuck? That is an actual movie
I don't doubt
because
it. I don't doubt it.
it has predicted every single part of the conversation that we have had today around predictive analytics, around AR, around VR, around how we interact with machine. Like it is
I'm
just,
still amazed when I watch what is it, Ocean's 13, where they walk in and they have the biometric scanning
dude,
to
I'm
depend
just
on
go.
like.
Go.
All right, I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
I'll make a promise to you guys watching right now. I am going to send 1 text per day to Charlie, asking if he's. I'm going to go watch Minority Report
I'll
tonight.
watch it. I'll watch it.
It is
I got you.
phenomenal.
I got
You know what? Just
Oh my
for
God.
punishment, you got to go back and watch the original Tron and stomach that.
I've
fucking
seen
movie.
Tron,
The original Tron.
I've seen the original
and you
Tron.
haven't seen Minority
but
Report.
only because I saw the new Tron and I was like,
The old Tron, I tried to watch, and it was like, are they throwing Nerf balls? Oh my God, that movie
oh
was
man, but
garbage. But back then, that's
great
what we
ending.
had.
Great
is
ending
also
on
the
the
spin-off
topic.
to-
yeah, great
to,
ending to the
Dilfs-
topic,
Dilfs
guys.
and Dinks.
Dilfs and Dinks.
Dilfs and Dinks.
But no, you need to watch. I just can't wait until next week when you walk in. Like your pupils are going to be this big. Like guys, there's a movie that explains everything we've been talking about, but predicted it 20 years ago.
Well, guys, hold me
Hey, wait.
accountable. We'll talk
While we're
about
on
it
these
next week.
topics, I know this is a Dilf and Dinks thing, but did RoboCop not predict what the fall of Detroit was going to be?
It did. I just think Minority Report, based on everything we're talking about, like the fact that they used machine learning to predict crime that hadn't happened yet,
now
and
it's
that's
here.
the entire plot line of the movie. And then if you throw in the AR VR of like the shit that how they interact with computers and everything,
And the drones?
the
drones?
I got
drones.
you. I got
The
you.
drones
I
are
got
like,
you.
that's you, and we're going to come arrest you because, 10 days from now,
you're going to commit a murder.
Yeah, you're
All
going
right,
to commit
guys.
a murder.
Let's go ahead and move into the one rock takeaway. 'Cause
I got
we'll,
mine.
We'll go on.
Mine's easy. You
Yeah?
want to start?
Yeah.
My one rock takeaway is Charlie's never fucking seen Minority Report. And that's the future of real estate.
All right, I like it. Oscar, you want to go?
I don't even know where to start. My mind went into like a million places right now. One rock takeaway. I
have a real one, by the way, when you're done.
Don't be afraid of technology. It's like with any human element, people are going to make it ugly. But look at the brighter side of it and use the brighter side of it. It's there for your convenience, and roll with it.
I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say take advantage of it. We always talk about learning, right? And how knowledge is power. And right now, if we are still at the beginning of AI and with
infant
ChatGPT,
stage.
right? Very infant. So if you take the time, I took a master class on how to prompt AI, right? Took me, I think it was like an hour and a half.
That somehow didn't include Minority Report. But
It should have been part of the syllabus.
Right.
Seriously.
but that I just took a course on it, and it helped me expand my knowledge on it. How to, like Jameson was saying earlier, the input, what you put in is what equals the quality of the output. So if you take the time and you learn how to do that, you can capitalize, whether it be selling your home, buying your home. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a marketer, whatever it is, take the time and just dive into a little bit. And ultimately, don't be scared of it. But if you don't want to take that time, reach out to people, that have put the time in, and they'll be more than happy to explain it to you, because it is cool. It is a really awesome place to see.
Now, if you take that same attitude,
yep,
when you're ready and you implement that to your children, same end results.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your children, you take all that and you input everything, the output's going to be the same.
Hell yeah.
All right, so you took it 1 step, you took it 2 steps. I'm going to take it 3 steps. When it comes to buying and selling real estate as a client, this is a great way, or a great opportunity for me, like this is the way I see it, to not be just a passenger in the journey, right? Like, don't be a passenger princess when you're talking about selling your home, buying your home. Ask these questions. How is this going to make my journey easier? How are the agent that I'm going to pick, how are they going to augment my real estate transaction? And if they can't answer that, then choose somebody else, because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of technology is to make our lives easier, more simplistic, more enjoyable, more leisurely, all these different things. And we will come to you with these tools because our goal is to embrace those type of things. But as a client, I like when my clients are involved and they're asking questions, because to me, that means that the end result is going to be that much better for them because they were involved every single step of the way. And artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all these different technology things, right? Buzzwords will augment that experience for you guys. So lean into it versus shying away.
I will give you a great piece of consumer information right now that will help you immediately in your home buying or selling journey when picking an agent. Go to Bing right now and you type in prompt. I am a new homeowner looking to buy or sell my home, whichever one that you want to do, right? You are a real estate professional. Please generate 10 questions that I should ask the realtor that I want to use to make sure that I am getting a realtor that will help me in the best way. That will spit out 10 questions. And if you ask those 10 questions to your realtor and they cannot answer most of them, don't go with that realtor. Free bit of information for that right now. It's easy. Takes you 5 minutes, not even.
What are those 10 questions? Just kidding.
Right? But guys, as always, great conversation. And these are the conversations that I love to have is, dreaming about the future and seeing how.
Not only that, dude, this excites me because this type of conversation around technology will continue to evolve as we go forward.
Absolutely.
And technology, everybody's scared because they think the human element's going to be eradicated.
Correct.
Like, they're going to take our jobs.
No.
Guess what? Look at my brown
You know
skin.
how often,
I've been hearing
Can you,
that
for
for
the love
years.
of God,
You know how
for the love of
often-
God, put the South Park clip up there.
Yeah, well, you know how.
Wait. We don't need to be copyright infringement, but
like-
yes, there's a lot of stuff we could put up.
Yes.
But as far as you were saying, and to touch on what you just said, the human element of any industry is always going to be there. Look at the supermarkets. We have self-checkouts now. There's still someone there manning the stations. At the end of the day.
Absolutely. And like I said, guys, just amazing conversation. And I think the bourbon adds into it. I'll be interested to see. And again, I think this is going to happen. I guarantee there's going to be a company that comes out soon that is going to say this bourbon was created by AI.
Oh, hey, sorry. Yes, agreed. We already have one that it's not AI, but you can go to the distillery.
Yeah, and
you
it
can
builds
say, hey,
the
this
mash.
is what I
Yeah.
like, and they do it. But to the human element thing, I really want to lean into this because throughout history we've seen it where there's this rubber band snapback effect. Human beings are social animals in general, and we've seen it time and time again that as we start to get new things implemented that take us away from human interaction, there is always a snapback period where people just go, wait a second, I want to go back to talking to people. And that will always happen.
There was a good segment on the news the other day that
always
people
happening.
are going back to malls.
Yes.
We were removed from there because of Amazon and the pandemic. we want to go back to malls.
Absolutely.
That's super awesome.
Absolutely.
Right?
But
And wait, while we're on the subject, another movie came out. Have you seen The Butterfly Effect?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yes. Of course. Of
I'm
course.
over
I'm just saying.
Of course, I have seen The
Now I'm
Butterfly,
going to quiz him on movies that
Of
he
course.
needs to watch.
And I'm gonna fail.
Dude,
most of
like
it.
I said, when I said the Minority Report thing, I'm like, I'm terrified to ask this because it's so obvious. But my gut was telling me, since he
watched
didn't
it.
bring it up once while he was talking, I was like, I don't think he's fucking seen this movie.
No.
He's like, they should make a movie
about
drones
this. This is
looking
crazy.
for guys that may commit murders.
I have a multi-million-dollar idea.
And the worst part is my degree is in criminal justice.
So
Even worse.
But I think now is a great time to move into the bourbon review for today's episode.
You have failed us today, Charlie. Jesus.
Guys,
Love it. I love
what do
it.
you, how,
Such a good conversation.
how you how you feeling about it?
I'm gonna tell you right now. You said I was gonna hate it. I love it.
Yeah,
it's
same.
a good drinker. You know
It
what?
is a good drinker.
As I drank it and it opened up, the sweetness wasn't overpowering, and it was more like on a hot day sipping a root beer, A&W root beer.
It is.
When you
it's
said
sippable.
summertime,
Yeah,
I could drink this.
yeah, it's sippable.
Yeah,
It's a sipping bourbon.
I will say that as we let it open up, the sweetness definitely sits on the back end.
the bitterness
It's
went
not
away, by the way.
Yeah, it's not
bitterness
as
went away.
prominent.
Nope.
Not as prominent at all. But that spice, that wood, definitely comes through for me.
It
good
keeps
amount
true
more.
to what it is for me.
Yep.
Because I don't like the fake flavoring, the fake.
Yeah.
I like a bourbon to be a bourbon. It sticks true to what it is, a bourbon, but it brings out the fun side and the drinkability to. I don't make a habit of drinking, soft drinks, but if I'm enjoying a root beer on a hot summer day, it's a great feeling. That's kind of what this kind of
And I think-
emulates for me.
And I think that's where I may struggle in the rating a little bit, only because, when we rate it, guys, as always, we rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. We call it our rock rating because the more rocks you put in a drink, normally the worse that bourbon or whiskey is. So you want to water it down a little bit, or you want to add a Coke into it.
Yep.
And it's the reason I struggle here is because although it is a good sipper, it is, and I will agree with what James said at the very beginning of the episode. It is this is one that I would give to somebody that I wanted to introduce
100%.
Absolutely.
to bourbon.
100%.
Although I try and think on the grand scheme, right, on the larger scale of what we drink, because of course there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of bourbons out there, and I think that we have been privileged to have the 115 proofs, and we are able to buy bottles that are a little bit better. But for me, in the grand scheme of it, I just don't think that if you compare it on complexity, if you compare it on evolution of flavor, for me, I don't think that this one would hold up against like what we've been drinking.
How much was it?
It was $43, right? And again, not the worst, but at the same time, it does open up well. It sips very well. But I'm thinking, like, if I was in a room full of bourbon drinkers, and I was to say, Yellowstone's my favorite, they look at me and be like, what?
So similar reaction to when you say, I've never seen Minority Report in a group of
Yes.
people, and they'd be like, I'm sorry, what?
I'm not living it down.
Nope.
At least here we're watching this tonight, baby.
Yes,
This is-
yes, you guys are. And you know what? I'm telling you, you guys are both.
I'm
going
gonna
to
watch it tonight for him.
You guys are going to be like, is there a part 2? Like, this was. an
And you know what
amazing
I'm going to
movie.
do? I'm going to put on my VR goggles
can't wait.
and I'm going to watch it in a
can't.
theater mode.
Bro,
You know
I
what?
can't
It's interesting. I'm putting on VR goggles and use it for work. That's cool.
I can't wait for you to see this. movie.
Awesome.
But yes,
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and the way I see it, this is if I had to compare it to something, I would say this is the Coca-Cola of bourbons. You just pick it up and know what you're gonna get. It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. You could drink it.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised.
I would say that this reminds me a lot of Larceny. A little bit less
yeah.
complex.
I would put it around there. Larceny holds its own for me because it is true to what it is. It's high wheated, but the flavoring is solid. It's a no nonsense. This is what you're gonna get, and it's great for the price.
And that's what I mean is it's not, the reason I say Larceny is because Larceny is not looking to be, oh, I have notes of caramel. It's like, no, this is a bourbon. It has some flavor to it, but it's still a bourbon. You're going to enjoy it. That's how I relate it to Larceny here, because again, you're going to grab it. You're going to know what you're going to get. Again, it's not terrible, But for me, on the grand scale of what we've drank and what's out there, I have to take that into account. And I think for me, if I'm going to rate this guy, and again, you guys can totally disagree, but I think I'm going to sit around a 4.8.
Ooh, I was close. I said 5.
Yeah, 4.8.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good.
I am going to give it a solid 3.5. I like it. I truly like it. I like it because it holds its own, but it's very, very drinkable.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it to the point to where I wasn't like, I could sit here and finish the rest of this bottle.
Well, and this ties back
Kind
to
of like a soft drink.
I was going to say,
it's
but
weird. It's like,
this ties back to the AI conversation, right? Where we always talk about it is the quality of conversation and people that you have when you're drinking a bourbon. If I was in a room and it was contentious and I was sipping this bourbon, I'd probably be like, this is shit.
I would give it a 9.
Right? But we had a wonderful conversation. We were laughing. We were having a good time. We were sipping on it. It wasn't punching us in the face. Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from on that. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, if you are new to bourbon, if you want to introduce somebody to bourbon, I recommend this wholeheartedly.
I've drank high-end bourbons that are worse than this.
Basil Hayden 10-year.
Well, and again, starter bourbon, Basil Hayden across the board is a great segue. If you like the flavors of Basil Hayden, it's only going to get better.
It's funny. My comparison was going to be, I would compare this to Basil Hayden toasted.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Basil Hayden toasted is like $57 bucks. This is the 45, right? Like the way I'm rating this, I have 2 ratings. I've got a vibe rating, and then
I think my rating went with vibe.
Then a bourbon rating. But I will tell you this: this bourbon is a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. This is a I said in the beginning, right? If we were out in the middle of Kansas and one of those big old bonfires, sitting on a truck bed, having a great time, I'd take this
100%.
Oscar,
11 out of 10 times.
On that in February on that ice fishing trip.
11 out of 10
This would be
times.
yeah, I could see that.
It is
Hanging out.
It's in
sipping
Wyoming. It gets cold. I think we need a little bit more proofing,
Hotter,
but
yeah.
I would definitely have this.
Yeah, I think it's a vibe bourbon, and I know that's like so not specific, but to me it's like different strains of THC, right? Like to some people, all of it's the same. Like, oh, you get high. Other people, it's like, well, no, I've a different experience depending on what I'm smoking, or if you're eating edibles, what you're chewing, and then the conversation, who you're around. This to me is like the epitome of a bonfire bourbon with some really good conversation. Not some fucking shitheads in the middle of like having that, but having intelligent conversation around it. It's a vibe. And for me, I agree with Oscar, like 3.5. If I put this up against the other bourbons that we've had that are around this proof, I'm probably closer to like a 4.5.
Yeah.
And again, if that's the case in point, proof wise, it's how I feel about Elijah Craig.
So thank you. I was going to say that exact same thing because my go-to for this price point is Elijah Craig.
Me too.
And I would say Elijah Craig overall 3.5 to 4.
It will spank this
at $43 like that.
But
I will
again,
take that all day long.
we're bourbon drinkers, right?
Yes.
If you're gonna go with classic bourbon taste at price, at proofing, Elijah Craig all day. But when we pulled this from the shelf, I was like, I don't know, but the bottle is cool. It has a cork. It's not like it's a twist off. We're in for an adventure here. Once we sat it down and you told me the corn and it was sweet, I was already thinking 6. I was gonna say 6.5.
That's what I said.
I'm gonna hate
at the
this
beginning.
one.
Yeah.
As we drank it, the bitterness just kept pulling me back. It was sweet and then bittersweet. As we sat here, vibed with it.
Yep.
It gave me down to like 3.5. And I can't even give it a 4 because the vibe was good. It drinks well. It's a good drinker. Not even a sipper, a good drinker.
See, I think this is a conversation that needs to be expanded on in the future. I think we need to come back to it, maybe have a guest that maybe specializes in it and to talk about it. And I'll see if I can get that for you guys, listeners. But I think this is a great episode. And guys, as always, thank you so much for liking, following, sharing. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube at Living in Colorado, The Mile High Perspective. And it's not just this podcast. We have community spotlight videos. We have tips and tricks with real estate videos. Jameson is phenomenal at keeping up with the funny videos and shorts that come up.
He is the master short man.
Yeah. But as always, guys,
Just
remember
call me the leprechaun bitch.
you can reach out to us at all times. We are figuring out the Google Voice where you might get to the voicemail, but we always see the calls come through, and we will get to you. If calling isn't good, please shoot us a text
Or
email us. You can reach us at email at resotr@themilehighperspective.com or give us a ring.
303-578-0263.
And of course, we always have each one of us have our own independent social media. Jameson,
The Colorado Real Estate Guy. Super simple on pretty much all platforms.
Oscar.
Mine's a little more. There's a few other ones, but it's Oscar the Realtor, OscarRealtor.com, Oscar the Realtor CO.
And I am that lifting agent. And again, guys, as always, these guys are awesome enough to let me come in, help produce, cut the stuff up. And if you want to reach out with any of that information, whether it be, hey, I want to bolster my real estate online presence with social media, I want to do client testimonial videos, reach out to me at BTG Productions CO. I'm more than happy to answer any questions for you guys, help with that. And I think 2024 is going to be a big year for real estate.
It's going to be an awesome year.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
I think it's going to look a lot like Minority Report, which 2 out of the 3 of us get.
The third one may be arrested for murder.
On that note, everybody, thanks for joining
Cheers.
us as always. Cheers.